Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the ultimate Halloween finale of Beth the Chef. So this week we're gonna be doing a bit of French patisserie, and the challenge is to make some choux ou craquelins look like bloodshot eyeballs. Yeah. So I'll put a plan up of what we're gonna do, and fingers crossed they will look like that. They will be a treat and not a trick. And they're going to be filled with lychee cream and filled with cherry gel to represent the blood. We're going to make red craquelin for the top that in theory resemble all the veins. So we've got a fair bit to crack on with, and yeah, let's cook before our bonfire special next week. Oh, that's better. Feel a bit more like myself. Yeah. So let's talk choux craquelins. So they're little French pastries, let's say, a filled choux bun, usually with cream or creme patissiere. We're just going with some chantilly. The craquelin on top, so that is like a thin sugar cookie, made with butter, sugar, flour, which you'll see later. But it's rolled out very thin, and the idea of it is, as it cooks, it goes on top of this choux bun, and as it cooks, it sort of melts on there and creates lovely, almost lace pattern effect, like a lacing. Not just that, not just looks. It's the sugar aspect, the sweetness, brings out any flavours that you're using in your cream or toppings or whatnot. Obviously for this week, we're going with lychees and cherries. Lychees is a very subtle flavour, so it will help boost that up a bit. And marry with the cherries, hopefully. We're going to begin with the craquelin because you'll see later, but this gets rolled out very thin and in the freezer, so it needs that freezing time. In the meantime, we can make the choux pastry. But traditionally, craquelin has 3 ingredients. Our one is 4 because of our bloody grueling food colouring, red food colouring. But usually it's butter, sugar, flour. So the butter needs to be very soft, and I've got 55 grams of very soft salted butter. And in here there's 60 grams of plain flour and 60 grams of light soft brown sugar. I mean, you can use caster sugar, but brown sugar has more of a caramelly flavour, caramelly notes, let's say, which again helps to bring out the other complements of your choux buns. So yeah, it's just in a bowl, and all we're going to do is add the butter, incorporate well, and incorporate our food colouring. Yeah, just get a bit of greaseproof paper. You need another bit for the top. And what you want to do is get half the mixture. I'm going to pop this paper on top. Maybe squish it down. Make sure your paper's flat. And I'm just going to lightly roll. Be very delicate with it, but what we want is we're aiming for a thickness of 3 millimeters. Once you're done, be very delicate, and it's going to go in the freezer just like this. Right, so I've got everything gathered up for the cherry gel, and we got these beautiful cherries, Amarena, sour cherries in syrup, and I bought these from Lidl's. Lidl's is great for juice from Italy and from Spain, and it's quite interesting because you always go intending to buy your usual groceries and you always come back with something different. Plus we got Lidl Plus app, which we get a lot of good discounts with. I cannot tell you how much pistachio paste we have gone through because that stuff is addicting. But we're going to use some cherries later on as well, basically for the pupil. Spoiler alert. But in here I reserved about 100 mils of the cherry syrup, and it's quite sweet, so you don't need any additional sugar. Again, because of the sweetness, there is the juice of half a lemon in here, and about 75 mils of water, just cold water. I'm just going to put it in the pan, and like with all our gels, we're going to use agar-agar. So same process, we heat this up, get it bubbling a bit. I'm going to add the agar-agar, and again we'll use about 3 grams because it's 1 gram to every 100 mils of liquid you use. And you want the liquid to reach at least 80 degrees in order for it to set. So I've just popped into a bowl to cool down, and when it's set, as per usual, we'll blitz it up and pop into a piping bag. Right, so I've gathered everything up towards making the choux buns, so I'll just go through it with you. We need a saucepan for this. We're also going to need our electric mixer later on. But what we've got here, and I'm going to sift the ingredients, by the way, sift the flour and the sugar, because we want some nice light airy choux buns. But in here is 110 grams of plain flour. In here I've got half a teaspoon of caster sugar and also half a teaspoon of table salt to help bind it. There's 3 eggs. As a heads up, we need an extra egg yolk later on. That's just to wash our choux buns. We got 50 grams of butter, just unsalted butter. And in here is 100 ml of whole milk and just 100 ml of water. So the first stage of this will be sifting the flour into a bowl. But in the meantime, I'm going to heat the butter, the salt and sugar and the milk and water together, just on a low heat. As you can see, my flour is sifted into a bowl. And I've just put this on a low heat to incorporate and melt everything. Once it's melted, I'm going to bring it to a boil. Remove from the heat quickly with a wooden spoon. Beat the flour into the pan. And then it's just going to go back on the heat 1 to 2 minutes. Back on a low heat, not very long at all. Just to ensure everything's incorporated together. Right, so here we go. Now I've brought it up to the boil. And take off the heat. Beaten in that flour. So it's formed the ball already. And just make sure everything is incorporated well. And this is a great sign when it's not sticking, just coming off like that, coming away from the pan. What you want to do when you're done is cool it down. Make sure it's cool before adding the eggs. That is a key aspect to this. And then we're going to go onto the mixer. The pastry is in the mixer, and you want this hook for choux pastry, because a lot of recipes use the whisk, but you want this one. So I'm just going to add the eggs, but one at a time. Make sure it's incorporated well. So this is the kind of thing you're looking for. And I'm going to pop this into another piping bag, and we're going to get ready to pipe and start cooking them. So before we get to piping, we're going to cut the craquelins to get a guide for the size. I'm going to use this cutter because I want to do quite big, like individual ones. I'll get a portion of my craquelin out the freezer and just carefully peel away. If needed, in case it's too soft, pop it back in the freezer. You want to be able to get the shapes up, and it's a very delicate thing. And sometimes the pastry things take time. But for the choux buns, get a nice flat tray, line it with greaseproof, and get your piping bag ready. Don't want to fill the bag up too much. You want roughly the size of your cutter, so it's going to expand in the oven, just like with the craquelin. And make sure you leave some good gaps between them because of expansion. Don't worry too much if there's a little nipple because the craquelin can push that down. Right, so I'll just show you with a couple. I can get some. This one. Just delicately pop your craquelins on top. And when you're ready, we're going to go in the oven, but we're going to reduce the heat to 170. They're going to go in for about 30 to 35 minutes, but rotate the shelves halfway. Right, so once they're done and out the oven, I've just got some to show you. You're looking for a nice firm bottom. And just do a cocktail slit. Make the hole big enough for your piping bag. But to each one, insert a little hole and just carefully pop onto the cooling mat. We're moving on to other than decorating, our final stage of this process. The lychee chantilly that is going to fill the choux buns and be the ball of the eye. There must be a name for it. The white part. So I've seen tin lychees in Sainsbury's before, but these ones are actually from Lidl's. Again, Lidl's is great for things like that. And I'm just going to get a spoon. I want some of that liquid in there. As you can see, they look like eyes already. So, as they say, eye for an eye, we're turning an eye into an eye. Something like that. And yeah, keep a bit of syrup in there, but I'm going to put half of these in there, which would be roughly 200 grams. And what I'm going to do in just a moment, I'm going to blitz this up and pass it through. So we've got basically a lychee puree to go through a standard vanilla chantilly. For the chantilly, I've got vanilla extract, icing sugar, and of course our double cream. I'm going to use the full 300 mils for this, because not only the middle of the choux bun, we're piping the top as well. And the same way as before, I'm going to whip this up to soft peaks. Just before I get to that stage, I'll add the sugar. That way I can see where I'm at and not over whip the cream. And then we're going to fold in the vanilla flavouring and of course our lychee puree. Right, so got my icing sugar weighed out and ready to go. There is 150 grams in here, so is the half the amount of cream we got. So yeah, when you're looking for a stage where you can draw a figure of 8, that is the stage to add your icing sugar. See how much it thickens up on that? So if you were to have whipped cream and then add that, it would look a lot thicker. I'm going to fold in the lychees now. I'll try and fit everything in. I have got 22 of those cherries, which I'm just getting the excess syrup off on a J cloth, which is going to be the pupil. We've got our choux buns ready, cake box lined with some greaseproof. I've got my jowl here and a piping bag ready for the lychee chantilly. So I'll pop a bit of the chantilly into the bag. And I'll just show you with one. I'm going to put a bit of our gel in there. Followed by some of our cream. Into the bun. Cream. And finish off with an eye. And here we have it, our ghoulish lychee and cherry eyeballs, Choux or Craquelins, whatever we call them. Happy Halloween, everyone. Spread the word with the chef. Join us next week for a bonfire special where we're going to be making the ultimate hot dog. Bon appetit!